It was close to nightfall, and everyone was making dinner on the boat. Ellis was on deck watching the sunset, while his friends were finishing up cooking dinner. He was going to watch the sunset as he waits for dinner to be ready. He was starting to have a bit of doubts on himself, but he knew that the apocalypse had really taken a toll on him and on his mental health as well as everyone else. But as Ellis was looking at the sun, Ellie came up on deck. "Zoe says it's time for dinner, Ellis," she said. "All right, Ellie. Thanks for calling me. Oh boy, I'm starving." Ellis followed Ellie to under the deck of the ship. "Virgil had his dinner as I brought it up to him," Nick said, as Ellis sat down with Zoe and the rest of the group. "What's for dinner?" Ellis asked. "We're having spaghetti. I'm surprised that Virgil actually kept some of this stuff here with sauce and meat in it," Rochelle said. "Wow, looks great. I haven't had this in a while," Zoe said, as everyone started to dig in. "Zoe and I had a food eating contest one time. Of course, Zoe was the winner," Sister said. "Can Ellis see if he can beat Zoe in that?" Nick asked. "Let's bring it," Ellis said as Rochelle stopped Ellis. "Now we're not going to have a race on this, Ellis. We are going to take our time," Rochelle said as she poured a glass of wine for her, except for Ellie and Sister. "Can we have milk, please?" Sister asked as Coach passed the milk to Sister and Ellie. "We've never had wine before, right, Zoe?" Rochelle asked as Zoe shook her head no. She felt the burp coming up, so she covered her mouth and said, "Excuse me." Then Rochelle got a glass of wine for Ellie. Well, for Zoe. "Why not have a sip? You might like it," she said. "You're 19 after all." "Thanks, Rochelle, and if I don't like it, then Ellis can have it," Zoe said as she took a sip of the wine. "Wow, this is actually pretty good. My mom said that she disliked wine." "Can I try some?" Ellie asked, as the group looked at each other. "I don't think it's right to give kids any wine," Nick said. "It's not with the law with the infection now, Nick. I guess one sip for Ellie won't hurt," Coach said as he poured a cap full of wine, and Ellie had a sip. She didn't like the taste of it, though. "It's really strong," Ellie said as she coughed a bit. "Zoe doesn't like the taste of it either, but it's something that all people don't drink," Ellie replied as Sister looked at Zoe. "Can I try some?" Sister asked. "I guess a sip won't kill you," Zoe replied. She gave a glass to Sister, who had a sip, but then she gave the glass back to Zoe and spat it out of her mouth. Sister didn't like the taste of wine at all. However, that was going to be Zoe's secret, as well as the survivors, so that way Mama Bear doesn't get pissed off with any of the adults, as if this was not the apocalypse, all the survivors would have got charged for underage drinking. "It tastes bad," Sister replied. "It's okay, Sister. I knew it was wrong, but since the outbreak is on now, laws don't even matter anymore," Zoe replied as she and Ellis were eating together while everyone else was talking. "Sounds like Ellis and Zoe are focusing on food more than talking. I guess they are really hungry after all the zombies we had to kill," Rochelle said as Zoe and Ellis finished their dinner and drank all their milk and ate all their spaghetti. A couple of minutes later, after everyone finished their dinner, her sister looked up. "Can I go on deck with Zoe?" Sister asked as everyone was finished and cleaning up. "Sure, Sister. I can go with you on the deck," Zoe said. "Who wants to play a game of cards?" the coach asked. He found a deck of cards in the ship. "Me, Ellie, Nick, and Ellis can play a game," Rochelle said as the group got on the table, where they had dinner and played card game while Sister was on deck with Zoe. The night sky was also on. "Zoe, this is a beautiful night," Sister said as she looked up at the stars with Zoe. "It sure is, Sister. I've always been told when you look at the stars at night, you can see the spirits and ancestors are up there. Past loved ones that died," Zoe said. "Who told you that?" Zoe asked. "Bill did when I met him. That was before I met you. I can see that Bill is up in the stars. His spirit is watching over us. He's also watching Louis and Francis," Zoe replied as Sister and Zoe looked down at the water to their reflection. "You, Sister, will grow up to be a beautiful woman someday, despite that you're a bear. You're a grown woman, Zoe, even though you're the strong one. I do wish your mama could see you now," Sister sighed. "Wait for a second. I do wish Mama and Papa were here. I do miss them along with brother. Zoe then hugs sister. I know you miss them, sister. I do too. As soon as we save Brother Bear, we can all go home, Zoe said. How about this? Why not we do something together with what you do with brother, Mama, or Papa? Great idea, Zoe. Papa and I liked going fishing, Sister said as Rochelle came on deck to check on the girls. You girls okay up there? Rochelle asked. Yeah, we're doing great, Rochelle. Does Virgil happen to have 2 fishing pole rods for us? Sister asked. Yes, why? Rochelle replied with a question. Sister and I are going to go do something that she's always did with Papa, Zoe said to Rochelle. Okay, I'll get those rods. Rochelle replied as she was walking back down. Do you think Ellis is going to come up here? Sister asked. Well, I guess he might. I don't really know, Zoe replied. It's a possibility. What can we use to put on our hook if we don't have worms? Sister asked. Well, here's my secret, Zoe said. She pulled out some leftover food such as bread and etc. Will the fish eat that? Sister asked. Yep, they will. I haven't went fishing since I went camping, Zoe said as Rochelle came back up with the rods. Thanks, Zoe, Zoe said. Is Ellis coming up? He's almost done with the card game. He'll be up in a few minutes, Rochelle replied as she went back down off the deck. Zoe and Sister loaded their hooks with pieces of bread as they started to fish. It's very quiet, Sister said. It sure is. No infected around to hurt us, just the sound of waves in the water, Zoe replied. After a couple of minutes, they caught a bunch of fish. That was a lot of fun, Sister said to Zoe. I bet Papa couldn't catch all these fish, Zoe replied as she and Sister released their fish that they have caught back into the water. It's getting late. Shouldn't you all be in bed? A voice asked as Zoe and Sister turned around to see Ellis. Ellis, you're here, Zoe said as Ellis walked towards her and Sister. We're just getting ready for bed, Sister said as she got changed in her pajamas. I'll be sleeping with the group. Are you guys sleeping outside? Sister asked as Zoe and Ellis both nodded. Okay, good night, she said as she went down from the deck. You sleeping out here? Ellie asked Zoe. Yeah, why not join me? Zoe said that as she got her sleeping bag down where Ellis was at. It's such a beautiful night. Sure, I am okay if you are, Ellis replied as he and Zoe both lay down beside each other. Then they looked up at the stars. So Ellis, since we've known each other for a while and I was just thinking after we saved Brother Bear that well, that's if you want to, and me and you go settle into a new life together, Zoe said. I was going to ask you that, Zoe. Like, after you take Brother and Sister Bear back to their home, Ellis said, as he cuddled up closer to Zoe. Yeah, so are you okay with this for the future? Zoe asked. Of course I am, Zoe. When the world goes back to normal, things like that will be better for all of us, Ellis replied as he and Zoe both looked up at the stars to see the moonlight shining on them. I sure hope Brother Bear's okay. If Bill were here right now, he would tear that Farmer Ben up until he was nothing, Zoe replied as Ellis took off his shirt, since he was hot. Who is Bill? Ellis asked her. Bill was the leader of the group I was a year ago, when the infection started. He was the leader I was in. He took care of everyone. He was the one who cared for me, like if I was his granddaughter or his daughter. He died to save my group. I can see his spirit is in the stars and the clouds watching over me. You remember I told you about him? Zoe said. I wish he was alive. He would have told us the whole story of you saving brother, sister, and their friends, and that wicked old witch, Ellis said with a chuckle. Yeah, he called Witter Jones a bunch of nasty names. Shithead was one of them. Fucker was another. You know, the whole book. Zoe chuckled with Ellis. I bet he did, call her... Ellis was about to say, but was cut off by Zoe. Yes, he called her that. Zoe laughed. He also called her a bitch, and I even called her the wicked bitch of the West. Oh boy, Bill laughed at that. He is watching you, Zoe. At least you'll see him someday when your time comes to join him, Ellis said as he yawned. Good night, Ellis, Zoe said as she was feeling cold. She cuddled up closer to Ellis. Why did you take off your shirt? I was hot in it, Like my chest? Ellis said, as he was giving Zoe dreamy eyes. Yes, I do, Ellis. Will it be alright if I sleep with you? Zoe asked. I'm cold. Of course, darling. We have another big busy day ahead of us, Ellis replied, as he and Zoe cuddled up together, and they both fell asleep on top of the deck. They were lucky that it wasn't raining, or any other weather-related stuff started happening, so at least everything was all good at the end. As the sun was rising over where it should be cloudy later, Ellis and Zoe cuddled up together asleep. Rochelle walked on the deck with Nick, Coach, Ellie, and Sister. They were getting fresh air. Looks like those two had a good sleep, Ellie said. A good night sleeps together. I wonder if Ellis will, Nick said, but Coach punched his shoulder. Now quit that, Nick. Now is not the time, Coach said, as he was talking to Virgil when Rochelle walked to the sleeping couple. She watched him sleep as Ellis slowly opened his eyes. Morning, you two. I could see that you both slept well last night, Rochelle said, as Zoe opened her eyes as she and Ellis looked at Rochelle. Morning, Ro. It sure was a good sleep. I can't remember the last time I slept this good, Ellis said. No infected to fight, no sleeping with one eye open. It was great. I'm glad you both had a good night's sleep, even though it isn't as comfy as I would dream it, but at least we are safe from the infected for now, Rochelle replied, as Zoe got up with Ellis. We need some gas. So there is a town that has gas. I'm going to drop you guys off at the town of Duke Cattle, Virgil said as he pulled over up to the docks. So when you get the gas, signal me and I'll come pick you all up. Thanks, Virgil, Coach replied. I'll be offshore not too far from here, so that way I'll be safe from the walkers. Virgil dropped everyone off, then went out somewhere in the water. Now, though this is Burger Tank, there should be a gas station through here, Ellie said, as the group was preparing themselves. Bet you this, Ellie, the gas station we'll be going to is going to be out of gas, Nick said, as the group walked through a Burger Tank, killed the zombies that were wandering around. They found a gas station. They walked towards a gas station to see a sign that says, out of gas. Everyone groaned in disappointment. See, what I told you. I knew they would be out of gas, Nick said to the group. Now what? Sister asked. We'll just have to find another area that has gas, or another gas station at least, Rochelle replied. There might be a gas station past the sugar mill. Maybe we might find that gas there, Ellis replied, as the group all walked through the streets killing zombies. They killed a boomer, a hunter, and they heard crying. That sounds like a witch, Zoe said, as she told the group to shut off their flashlights. The group walked slowly past the wandering witch who was crying. She didn't notice the group, so everyone passed her. As the group walked down the streets, shooting down the wandering zombies. There's a treehouse! Sister climbed up to the treehouse as Zoe and Ellis both looked up. Then Sister found something inside the treehouse. I found something, Sister said, as she climbed down to the tree from the treehouse, showed the group of what she found. What did you find? Asked Ellis, as Sister showed the group a watermelon. It's a watermelon. It looked like it came from Farmer Bennon's watermelon patch, Sister replied. We shouldn't eat the watermelon. It could be spiked, Rochelle replied. Rochelle's right. Better to be safe than sorry. But great clue, Sister, Zoe said, as the group passed through a yard sale when it started to rain. Aw, shit, now it's raining, Zoe groaned. Well, it could be worse, Ellie said, as the group saw a tank near the safe house. The group got out of their weapons and began to shoot out the tank. It wasn't long until they were able to bring the tank down, and they ran inside the safe room. That was close, Sister said. Yeah, and the sugar mill is right there after we leave this safe room, Coach said. The group then prepared themselves, and then they went out to the sugar mill. Ellis, I want to talk to you, please, Zoe said. I was going the same thing, Zoe, Ellis replied as the two saw Sister stand them. Sister, no need to be rude or anything, but can me and Ellis talk alone? Zoe asked. Why? Whatever you have to say, you could say in front of me, Sister replied. Well, Sister, it's kind of more of an adult talk, Ellis said, as the two walked away at Sister's side. She was sad and mad at the same time. Come on, Sister, why don't we kill a jockey that's chasing Nick? Ellie said as Sister went with Ellie. Zoe and Ellis were ahead of the group, and they found a quiet space to talk. "What is it, Ellis?" Zoe asked. "Well, Zoe, ever since that you said that after we save Brother Bear and get him and Sister home, and you want to settle in a new life with me, I wanted to tell you this," Ellis said. "What is it, Ellis?" Zoe asked. I have feelings for you, Zoe. Strong feelings for you," Ellis replied. "Ellis, I've also had strong feelings for you too," Zoe said, as she was pulled into a hug by Ellis as he and Zoe went into a kiss. He had his hands around her waist as Zoe's arms were wrapped around his neck. After they broke a kiss, Zoe looked up at him. "I love you, Ellis," she said. "I love you too, Zoe," Ellis said, as he and Zoe went ahead to find another gas station for the sugar mill, while Sister was there with Ellie and the rest of the group. "This is bullshit," Sister said. "Why, sis?" Ellie asked. "It's Ellis, Zoe, together, alone," Sister said, as she was crossing her arms. What's wrong with that? I don't see any problems with it," Ellie asked. Of course, Sister did have a problem, but she just didn't want to say it in front of Ellie. I was afraid of maybe Ellie might just go behind Sister's back, saying some stuff to Zoe and Ellis. But at the same time, she didn't even know what to do. Meanwhile, in the sugar mill, Ellis and Zoe were in the elevator, waiting for the rest of the group. They made sure no infected was in sight, and luckily, there wasn't anybody infected nearby. "Like what is in your dream, Ellis?" Zoe asked. "Besides being with me." "Well, my dreams are you and me owning a house in the countryside with horses and living in a huge house in the country, like a mansion," Ellis said. "I love that dream, Ellis. I'm glad we are brought together," Zoe said, as the rest of the group caught up with them. "You see a gas station?" Coach asked Ellis and Zoe. "Yep, we did, and through this cornfield," Zoe said, as they pressed a button on the elevator so the group can get down. The noise attracted the infected, so the group got down together and shot down the horde of infected, as the group was able to take down the horde when the elevator doors opened. All the group went inside, and then the elevator went down. "If that gas station has no gas, then we're fucked," Ellie said, as the elevator reached the ground floor. The group then ran out of the elevator and ran through the cornfield. As soon as they reached the gas station, they found gas inside the safe room. "Gas, we found it," Rochelle said. "I'm glad we found it. Nice work, Ellis," Nick said, as Sister crossed her arms. She was still not happy that Ellis and Zoe had been spending more time together, and Sister was starting to get even more angry that she lay down on the mattress. "We should get some rest before heading out more," Zoe said, as the group agreed that they would rest for now, and that they would head back out to Virgil when they were ready with the gas. Later on, everyone got up and they all had time to prepare themselves and get back to the docks where the burger tank is. When they all prepared the gas, they put the gas cans on their backs. Luckily, they can carry them without a problem. Have you seen Sister Bear?" Zoe asked the group. "I haven't seen her since we went to bed," Nick replied. "Me neither," added Rochelle. Then Ellie went outside the store and looked around the gas station. She couldn't see Sister anywhere. "I don't see her, so maybe she's gone somewhere," Ellie said. "We better find her," said Coach. "I think she ran away from us," Ellis said. "What makes you say that?" Rochelle asked, as Ellis was just adjusting his hat. "I think Sister ran away because she's jealous," Ellis stated. "She has been jealous of mine and Zoe's relationship. I could tell that she is mad with us." Then all the group was shocked and even worried. "Oh no," Sister said. Zoe said. She was feeling guilty. "I feel so stupid. Why did I cause this to happen?" "Calm down, Zoe," Ellie replied. "It's not our fault. We will find Sister. She can't have gone far." The group stepped out of the gas station store where it was loud thunder. The storm made the area so foggy that no one can well see better. "It's a storm," Coach called. "Stay close," Rochelle said, as the storm was very rough, so the group all had to stay together. As they went in the elevator where they had to go get the gas, they took it back up. Once they got up, they saw Sister Bear having her back facing the group. "Is Dad sister?" Ellis asked. "But what the hell is she even thinking?" Nick asked. "I think she's trying to commit death to herself," Zoe said. "Oh my god, we gotta stop her," Rochelle said. She and Zoe then ran down to the bottom of the steps of the sugar mill. Coach then followed them, and just as they were ready to catch Sister, if she decides to fall, Nick, Ellis, and Ellie walked towards Sister, who had their back to them. "Sister, what are you doing?" Nick asked, but Sister didn't reply. "Sister, are you trying to kill yourself? You're so sick in the head. You can't do this," Ellis said, but Sister slowly turned herself to face the boys, including Ellie. They were shocked at what was said next. "Sister, please don't do this. Ending your own life is not going to fix anything," Ellie said. "You don't understand. Zoe and Ellis's relationship is more important than me," Sister sobbed, and then she jumped off of the abandoned building. "No!" Ellis and Nick shouted as Rochelle and Zoe, along with Coach, caught Sister Bear from the ground of the building. They caught her just in time, as Ellie, along with Nick and Ellis, ran down the stairs to join the others. "Sister, that was freaking crazy! What the hell were you even thinking?" Zoe said in a panicked voice. "Have you lost your mind? That is not going to fix anything," Rochelle said. "You girls okay?" Nick asked. "Very good," Coach said. Then he took Sister Bear in his arms as the young bear cub was shaking from getting cold. "Man, she may die from hypothermia if we don't get her to a place where it's dry," Ellis said. Ellie then handed him a blanket, and Coach wrapped her in the blanket. "I'll get her to the safe house. We all gotta stick together and stay close to me," Coach said to the group. As they were walking through the sugar mill in the stormy weather, there was a tank. The group were able to hide Coach carrying Sister somewhere dry, while the rest of the group fought the tank. Zoe was then hit by the tank, and she was thrown onto the ground. Ellis ran towards his girlfriend after the tank was dead with the last few shots. "Zoe, are you okay? Zoe, please answer me," Ellis said in a panicked, worried voice. Slowly opened her eyes to see Ellis, but she was wounded. "I'm okay, Ellis, but my body hurts," she said as Ellis picked her up. "You're okay. I'm glad you're okay," Ellis said, as Zoe was limping slowly towards Coach, who was holding on to Sister. "She won't wake up," Coach said. "I hope she's not dead." Ellis healed Zoe while Ellie and Rochelle were trying to get Sister to wake up. "If she's dead, here's the defib unit back in the safe house until we came here from when we can use it. I hope it works," Rochelle said. The group was all able to get out of the sugar mill, and they were close to the safe house when they just came. A charger then began to charge at the group. It grabbed Rochelle and was crushing her to the ground. Ellis and Zoe were knocked down from the charger that charged at Rochelle, who was grabbed. The couple got up and began to shoot down the charger. "Help!" Rochelle screamed as the charger was crushing her. When Zoe fired the last few bullets at the charger, Rochelle got up and looked at Zoe, who killed the charger. "You okay?" Zoe asked Rochelle. "I am fine, thanks," Rochelle said. "I think Sister may not make it." Coach said she has hypothermia, probably. "What?" Zoe asked in horror. "She's cold. We need a warm place for her and fast," Rochelle replied. The girls and Ellis finally got to the safe house with Nick, Coach, Ellie, and Sister. They're back at the safe house. "You guys made it," Ellie said, as the storm that thundered. It was starting to get foggy again outside. "Storm's coming!" Rochelle called out. "Stay close!" Nick called out, as Zoe ran towards Sister Bear, who was in Coach's arms. "I'm sorry, I think she's..." Coach was then cut off when Zoe took Sister in her arms and began to cry. Ellis stood with her. "Sister Bear, I'm so sorry. Please come back to me. I can't live without you." Zoe sobbed as Sister Bear opened her eyes and looked at Zoe and Ellis. "Zoe?" she asked weakly. "Sister, you're okay," Zoe said in happy tears, knowing that her friend was okay. "I'm sorry for being jealous of the fact that you and Ellis are in a relationship. I just learned about it the hard way," Sister said. "Just because I'm in a relationship with Zoe doesn't mean that we don't hang out with you anymore. Guess we'll have to balance our time alone together and our time with you," Ellis said, as the three were in a group hug. She's okay, Ellie sighed. I'm glad sister's okay, Rochelle replied. We hope that you're not mad at us. You really scared us when you wanted to end your life, Zoe said to sister. Not anymore. Your love for Ellis is teaching me a lot, sister said, as Rochelle was then hit by a spitball. Hey, who is doing that? Rochelle asked. Zoe, Ellis, and sister then heard snickering and laughing. It was Too Tall and his no-good gang, up to their mischievous tricks. Let's go do something fun, Zoe smirked at Ellis and sister. Let all four of us join this prank, Ellie said. Meanwhile, Too Tall and his gang were spray painting the houses with stormy, rainy streets. They were making themselves laugh when they were hit by a spitball. Hey, did you do that, Scuzz? Too Tall asked. It wasn't me, Too Tall, Scuzz replied. Order up, Ellis said, as Too Tall and his gang looked up and they saw Ellis with sister, Ellie, and Zoe with paint cans full of paint, and they dumped them all over Too Tall and his no-good gang. As soon as the gang were covered in paint, they all ran away. The dude's crazy, Smirk said. That sister and the other girls are insane, Scuzz said. That teenage college student is a total psycho bitch, Too Tall screamed, as the gang ran off until they were nowhere to be seen. Zoe, along with her boyfriend and two girlfriends, laughed. We sure pissed them off, Ellie laughed. We sure did, and they called us names that we didn't like, but I loved their reactions. Ellis laughed as Rochelle with Coach and Nick showed up. You guys got them back? Nick asked. We sure did. Were you watching us? Sister asked. We saw all of it. Then man, that was too funny. Rochelle burst into laughter as the group walked past the stormy streets. They went through the yard sale that they had passed through earlier. Yard sale, we're going the right way, Ellis said, as the group walked through the yard sale when the storm started to get worse again. Storm! Zoe called out. No one wander off, Ellis added, as the group all stayed together as they shoot down the wandering zombies, including a hunter and a smoker. They walked past the treehouse, went through some houses, until they saw the playground that they had passed earlier. The playground! Yes, we're close, Rochelle said. As the group walked past the playground, they saw a safe house on one of the houses, so they all ran inside the safe room. That's how it's done it right, Ellis said. Everyone must be wet. Let's dry off for a few minutes before heading back to Virgil. Great plan, Ellis, Sister said, as everyone dried off in the safe room from the storm. After at least 2 hours of drying off in the safe house, the group prepared themselves and walked back to where they started to get gas for Virgil. When they got back to Burger Tank, they shot down the wandering zombies and that they were at inside the Burger Tank. How can we signal Virgil? Ellie asked. We can light up that Burger Tank sign, and that should get his attention and come and get us, Ellis suggested. That will attract the hordes of infected, so once we light up this sign, prepare to fight. Zoe then warned everyone, as they all prepare themselves so they can fight. The hordes of infected. Once everyone was ready, Coach turned on the sign and attracted the hordes of infected. The first wave was going on, and it was soon taken down by the group, and they even killed a couple special infected. After the first wave was down, including the tank, the group all prepared themselves. Virgil will be here soon, Nick said, as a second horde of infected ran past towards the group. They shut down the second horde of infected, including a second tank, and some special infected. Virgil's here! Let's go! Ellis called out. As Virgil pulled his boat over to the docks, everyone jumped in on the boat, and the boat then took off. Once everyone was in, and soon the group was safe from the hordes of infected. We made it, Ellie said. I know, Sister replied. We sure showed those infected, Sister said, as the group went under the deck to stay warm. The group stayed under there until they had heard that the rain had stopped, although it was going to be a while, but they knew for a fact that the rain will stop soon, and they'll be at their new destination.